Yes, welcome back. You're still watching Citizen Extra, the Ballot 2017 edition, our continued special coverage of the 2017 general election, and now the repeat presidential election that we expect to have next month, either on October 17th, if at all we end up agreeing on that date. Of course, not everyone is worried about this kind of events. Quite a number of election losers, those who lost elections on August the 8th, have rushed to courts to file election petitions. Today is a deadline for that, for filing of election petitions. Let's now head out to the Milimani courts here in Nairobi, where Sylvia Chebet is following up on these proceedings. Very good morning to you, Sylvia. We do understand that it is a bit busy in as far as filing of election petitions is concerned at the Milimani courts. Is that the case?
Well, Fred, it's today or never for election losers who seek redemption from the courts, today being the last day of filing petitions. As at yesterday, the judiciary had recorded 6 gubernatorial petitions, but by end of day, 3 more had come in. 46 MCA petitions, 13 from members of people who are hoping to be members of parliament, and 2 more from senatorial candidates. Now, we expect that today there will be more last-minute filings. Of course, the Friday Supreme Court ruling nullifying the presidential election results having triggered an avalanche of these petitions. And so we expect that today various courts, magistrates and high courts dotting the country will be receiving this kind of petitions as the losers seek to reclaim what they call their lost victory. Now, they exude confidence that they will prove their winning candidates or their winning rivals, the winner that declared by IEBC, and indeed IEBC wrong, should the various courts grant their request to have or in fact a recount of the vote. Now, just to give you a brief summary or a rundown of some of those candidates, gubernatorial candidates that have already put in their petition applications, we have Wavinya Ndeti of Wiper charging Governor Alfred Mutua election in Machakos. We have Martha Karua seeking to, Kenya leader Martha Karua seeking to nullify the election of her competitor Anne Waiguru, former Garissa Governor Nadhif Jack changing the election of his rival Ali Korane. We have Lamu Governor Issa Timothy, former Lamu Governor Issa seeking to nullify Twaha. We also have Leni Kivuti seeking to nullify the election of Governor Martin Wambora, and as well we have former Taita Governor John Murutu, who is up against his competitor Granton Samboja, who also was and his counterpart Hussein also seeking to withdraw the victory, seeking than his competitor. Now, they all cite massive irregularities, fraud of unprecedented levels. In some cases, they argue that they claim that their agents were locked out of polling stations. And as Martha Karua's lawyer, Gitobo Imanyara, put it, the Supreme Court ruling nullifying the presidential result should apply in their cases as well. Of course, that petition giving them immense hope that they can reclaim their lost victory, as they say. Fred.
Thank you, Sylvia Chebet, live from the Milimani law courts here in Nairobi, and we do apologize for the poor sound there, but Sylvia Chebet was giving us an update on the number of petitions being filed, election petitions being filed. Of course, this has been triggered by the judgment by the Supreme Court with regard to the presidential elections, and on that basis, quite a number of losers in the August 8th contest have gone to court. Of course, today is the last day that they can file those petitions. We'll be following up and getting a more comprehensive report on that happening for later bulletins. Let's now head out to Kisumu. We do understand now we have Laura Otieno on standby for an update from that end. Good morning, Laura. Go ahead with your report.
Thank you very much, Fred Ndimuli. And indeed, we are at the Kisumu County Assembly, where right behind me, the swearing process for members of the County Assembly is ongoing. Now, the number in total is 35 elected and 13 nominated, bringing the total number to 48. And the dynamics that played out during the August 8 polls showed 33 members being ousted and only 2 being re-elected back into the County Assembly. So currently, the swearing-in process is ongoing, and in attendance, we have the Deputy Governor, Matthew Zowili, and also the former Deputy Governor Ruth Odinga, who just walked into the premises a short while ago. And after the swearing-in ceremony is when we expect them to elect the Speaker of the County Assembly. And as you know, the previous County Assembly had such a controversy when it came to the Speaker. That is when we had a female Deputy Speaker being thrown out, being ousted, and there was some sort of hectic relationship between the Deputy Speaker and the members of the County Assembly. The Deputy Speaker, interestingly, was also vying for, wanted to vie as an MCA, but she was ousted long during the party primaries, and that is basically what is going on at the Kisumu County Assembly. And now moving on to the courts, indeed, this being the last day for filing petitions. The former Governor, Jack Ranguma, was expected to file his petition as of yesterday, and his lawyers had said that as of yesterday they were supposed to file a petition in the afternoon, but we did not see that. So information we are receiving is that he should be filing his petition at the Kisumu High Court, which is under the leadership of Justice David Majanja, anytime today. And we know that he contacted Tom Ogenda to be his lead lawyer. Tom Ogenda, as you know, Fred, has quashed the reputation, having defended so many people in the Mandera petition. He's been involved, and so Jack Ranguma also, we are being told that is involving Tom Ogenda as one of his lead counsels in his petition. And as it stands now, we are at the County Assembly. We do not quite know if he has filed his petition yet, but we will be following up. Also in Siaya County, former Rarieda legislator Nicholas Gumbo is also expected to be filing his petition today, challenging the election of the current governor now, Cornel Rasanga. And basically that is what is going down here in the Nyanza region. The official campaign having set for starting today. The local leaders, we know yesterday they were waiting for Raila Odinga, who was at the Kisumu International Airport sometime just before 7 p.m. and he addressed some of the supporters in Kondele, basically echoing what he said in Nyamira concerning the membership rather of the IEBC team, of course also wanting Chiloba to go home and things like that. He addressed supporters in Kondele, but then people were in town in the central business district and along the streets waiting for him for as late as 8 p.m. but he did not show up, so people had to go home disappointed. But basically that is what is going down in the corridors of justice. We have Jack Ranguma filing his petition, and also at the County Assembly the election of the Speaker should be starting any minute now, Fred.
Loro Otieno there. Thank you, Loro Otieno from the lakeside city of Kisumu, giving us an update on the political happenings there. Of course, to do with the county assembly as well as the presidential, anticipation of the presidential election repeat. Let me now introduce my panelists this morning for this next hour, starting with Eric Wanjohi next to me. Next to Eric, we have Joseph Simeka, who has worked as part of Raila Odinga's campaign team, if I'm not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you. Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Bwana Joe Mutambo, former Mwingi Central Member of Parliament, if I may ask you, are you among those who's heading to court to challenge the results of the election of August the 8th?
No. I think you remember, Eddie, I said before that I was not dying to go to Parliament.
Okay.
My purpose was to see Uhuru Kenyatta win.
Okay.
And I'm celebrating because he did win.
Okay, good enough, good enough. The good people of Kenya will decide what happens in the coming repeat elections. And of course, Gabriel Muthoma, karibu sana. It's good to have you back on this panel.
Thanks, Inamula.
Of course, quite a number of things happening, gentlemen. Of course, you've heard about what's happening at IEBC. We do understand a crisis meeting is currently going on following Wafula Chebukati's decision to name a different team to oversee the repeat presidential election. He appears to be already in trouble with his commissioners. He's already in trouble with the secretariat because he had sidestepped quite a number of the senior officials there. We really had that discussion with my earlier panel. And we now want to move on to other happenings in the political field, of course, to do especially with defections. Yesterday we saw quite a number of Western Kenya leaders who lost out in the elections who have chosen not to go to court to challenge the results, now switching allegiance and now trooping into State House to pledge their loyalty to President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee and his re-election campaign. A day earlier, we had seen NASA welcoming Peter Munya, who lost in the gubernatorial race in Meru, and now he is the 6th principal in NASA. It appears the season of defections is back with us, alignments and realignments, and we have a lot to deal with, surely. We do have a repeat presidential election, but this appears to have actually given a new lease of life to politicians, especially those who lost in the August 8th election. We do understand Bwana Joe Mutambu and his team of colleagues from Mukambani have already declared who they will support. Even people who are part of NASA now, they've already thrown their weight onto the side of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Is this what you expected, Eric?
Oh yes, we can expect a lot of realignments because that is the nature of Kenyan politics. Capitalizing on any opportunity that you get. Now, an opportunity has presented itself for people now to get recognition or to be relevant once again, especially those who did not win in the elective posts that they were going for. And now this is a good opportunity for them to reinvent themselves or rejuvenate themselves. And they can only do that by aligning themselves to these leaders in the anticipation that by supporting them, they may get something.
So they're simply looking for jobs.
Of course.
They're simply looking for jobs.
Of course.
But what happens, because what is the relevance, what is the dividend that, let's say, President Uhuru Kenyatta gets from hosting Joe Mutambu and these other leaders who lost out at the August 8th polls? How can you equate the benefit that the President will get from leaders who have already lost out in the contest at the grassroots?
Actually, my position is nothing really changes. Apart from the optics, sometimes the optics are good if you kind of impress upon the public that you see, I am the winning side. You see how many people are trooping to my side. So that, in terms of the optics and what impression it may create in the minds of undecided voters, that you could say has an effect. But in terms of tangible support that they bring, in terms of numbers of voters that they bring to whether it's Uhuru Kenyatta or Raila Odinga, in my opinion, hardly. I could speak about the ones I know well, the ones from Western Kenya. I mean, Marende, for God's sake, what can he win in Western Kenya? With all respect to him, because I know him and he's been a friend for a long time. Jirongo, what can Jirongo win? Akaranga, who just got beaten in Vihiga, what can he really bring to Uhuru Kenyatta in terms of numbers? The only person of note who you would say had quite some support in his constituency was Otuoma, but by making that decision again, what does it do to his political career, given what a majority of the people of Busia, politically, where they lean? So in terms of real numbers, I'm afraid I just don't see huge changes in terms of real numbers. People supported Uhuru Kenyatta will still support Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes. People supported Raila Odinga will still support Raila Odinga. So they will just, I think they will wrestle over undecided voters. And yes, well, sometimes these optics could influence some undecided voters.
Bwana Mutambu, I think you may want to disagree with Bwana Simera here. He says you bring nothing to the table. You've already lost on August 8th. You've lost at the constituency level. What benefit are you to Bwana Uhuru Kenyatta right now?
Before we started our conversation, I had my good friend here calling Shimeka Professor. And I'm wondering where that title came from. You see, election, like they say, is not just a matter of casting vote. It's a process. And the leadership is not being elected or not being elected. You don't have to be elected to be a leader. You can lead your people even without being elected. And you can miss out at a ballot, but you still have that support from the grassroots. Talk of Joe Mutambu in Mwenge Central. And I will tell you for free that Mutambu never lost in Mwenge Central. People voted for Mutambu in Mwenge Central, but that is a story for another day.
Are you saying you won the contest in Central?
When we counted the votes which were counted, Mutambu lost. But what is the will of the people? What did the people decide? I don't want to tell you whether votes were stolen or there was, practice. I don't want to go
Are you
down
saying
that road.
that the people who voted for you,
Yes.
though you lost in that
Yes.
contest,
I'll
are
tell-
automatically going to vote for Uhuru Kenyatta now?
Definitely they will. And if you want me to give you a case study in my place, I'll tell you I was rigged out by the people who are close to me and who are working with me and who are working with the government. And I have no apology to make when I say this. Because you can imagine, when you go to an election and you do not have a single agent, right? Somebody somewhere will withhold my appointment letters for my agents. And you can understand the level of illiteracy in Ukambani, whereby a old woman comes and says, I want Joe Mutambu, and the mark is marked to a different person. That is not the will of that person. But because of some particular individuals who wanted you out, you are out. You can fight it, you can hang it, but legally
But
you lose.
maintain
Because you remember
hold
Michuki once.
influence on voters of Mwingi Central, and you can actually sway which side
I can guarantee you this without any fear of any contradiction, that in Mwingi, let me talk of Mwingi Central, where I command.
Yes.
Today, I know I have the command of Mwingi Central. I know people of Mwingi Central loves me, but I tell you, and I want to pronounce it very openly, that I went to election without a single agent from morning to evening. And all the people who are casting vote, even today, I can tell you there are people who are even camping at the IBC centers asking, we voted for Mutambu, where are the votes? But you see, because those votes were marked for someone else, you cannot prove even in court.
Okay. Is it that simple, Gabriel? Is it that simple that even if you lost at a contest, all the people who voted for you, you still hold influence over them?
Any elected leader still has influence. It does not matter how much. But whether he moves to another party, probably he had 100,000. He may not come with 100,000, but trust you me, he'll make a dent. However significant, in terms of smallness that you want to call it. Professor Smeha has alluded to something like a Karanga doesn't bring any votes. I don't believe in that. It's same way I can sit here and say Munya will not bring any votes. That is wrong. Because look at it this way. Ken Lusaka lost. Who is he now? Is he not the Speaker of the Senate? You tell me, all his followers, where are they likely to take that vote? That's what I'm telling you. When you put such questions to an eye of a politician, you'll get very different answers. I cannot, and I won't sit here and disparage any candidate who has ever given himself for a leadership position. Whether it's an MCA, it doesn't matter how many votes they bring, they have the ability to tilt, even if it's 4 or 5 votes to somebody's favor.
Bwana Simeha, your theory appears to have been
No.
thrown out the window. Do you have any response to that?
I do have a response, and I absolutely disagree with my friend and brother here, Maduma. I would like to recall a fact of history for him, and I just want to draw that example from Western Kenya, where he says Ken Lusaka has been given what? Speaker of Senate.
Yes.
It's not Wananchi who have given him that, it's Uhuru Kenyatta who has given him that. Not even the senators, it's Uhuru Kenyatta. Moi once gave Mudavadi the position of vice president. The people told him, go home with your vice presidency. So the politics of Western, the people of Western are not, most of them are not transactional in nature. That you give one person for his own personal benefit a position and you think that will sway the people. It doesn't happen. Ask Eugene Wamalwa and many others, before them. It doesn't happen. It's not that transactional.
Eric, you may be tempted to agree with Simeha because it's true. Western Kenya politics is a bit different from elsewhere, and any politician you meet will tell you Western Kenya is a bit dicey. You never know how it will go. It is not that simple. We've seen leaders from Western Kenya troop to State House before. Actually, a whole party fold up and move to State House, yet the party leader was defeated.
What Simeka is saying is understandable, and also what my two brothers have said. The truth of the matter is, any vote that comes in right now is important. Whether somebody brings in 1 vote, 2 votes, 10 votes, somebody like a Karanga may not bring the amount of votes that Simeka may desire to call a voting bloc. But he'll bring in substantial amount of votes that can be added on to the presidency to make a difference. Remember, we're not going for a simple majority win. We're going still for the 50 plus 1. So any vote that comes in counts. whoever, regardless of who has brought it in. But let's move away from these individuals and see what is happening in the country right now. What is going to make a difference is the events that have brought forth this particular re-election process. The Supreme Court verdict, the behavior of, for instance, Jubilee during that time, the behavior of NASA during that time. All these factors are being watched closely by Kenyans. And most Kenyans actually are now shifting positions based on what has come about. I'll give you a very good illustration. Not all Kenyans believe that the Supreme Court verdict was just.
Yes.
People have their own dissenting views, and they're entitled to it, the president included. If two judges of the high Supreme Court can dissent to their views, everyone else is allowed to an opportunity to dissent the views. So that particular verdict that many Kenyans dissent to give some kind of votes to President Uhuru Kenyatta by default. Secondly, when you look at, and it would be good to go a bit into the verdict, but not now. When you look at the conduct of NASA, they come and tell us during that period, first of all, they're not going to go to court. Then all of a sudden, they want this country split. All of a sudden, they've now decided to go to court. Now, anybody who comes up with that mentality of splitting this nation automatically loses votes. And I'll tell you from the history of Kenya, when we were
automatically
loses votes of many Kenyans. Based on what? If you look at the history of Kenya, we fought for the independence. When our forefathers were fighting for independence of this country, they were not fighting to split up this country to give some whites some part of the country and Kenyans another part of the country. When it comes to the second liberation, the Kenneth Matibas, Jaramogi Odinga et al., when they were fighting for the second liberation, not that they did not know the opposition has certain strongholds, that they can always win the election by those strongholds. They knew that, but they did not come to say, let us split this country. They came and said, let us build this country together. We need an opportunity where all Kenyans can come and contribute to the progress of this country. Now, here is a mentality that is brought to the table, saying that if so-and-so does not win, then we can no longer call ourselves Kenyans. We need to be split from this country. Of course, even within the NASA themselves, there are very many NASA people who are now decamping from that kind of mentality.
Well, there's a lot of shifting of allegiances, and it's across board. It's not just in NASA strongholds. Of course, NASA yesterday made clear that they're going for the Kisii vote based on the fact that the CJ, who has been very much attacked by Jubilee, comes from that region. Something like that will definitely play out. Do you see that playing a big role? Remember, Jubilee this time round, more than ever before, got quite a lot of votes from that region. Gabriel.
I actually do, and that's why sometimes you need to be cautious as a leader of some of the things that you say. Anything that you disseminate, people tend to take it differently, and sometimes you can be misquoted, as many politicians have alluded to, but sometimes you can be, it can be you're speaking your heart out, like when we were looking at the clip of the president saying that, you could see and you could tell he was visibly angry, and he's come back and said, you know what, I was not attacking a community, I was just talking.
But he's already been put on the defense.
He's already been put on the defense, but it is nothing different. It is actually the leaders who propel that to a tribal directory. Because if you look at what Uhuru said, and that which Honorable Raila said on the 22nd of August, while he was, in the swearing in of Joho, they actually mirror. It's one and the same. So you're just taking the tide, like, you know what, he said it, now let's go to the community, and you know what, let's try to
the truth of the matter is, whatever statements they make will matter.
They will matter. They will matter.
For instance, the statement that Raila Odinga made in Kajiado in the build-up to the August 8th election did affect.
It actually did affect. The same thing that Kalonzo Musyoka said about some community lying low like envelopes. It also affected. Come to the statements that he also said yesterday that children will not die, they don't sit for the exam. That in itself has rattled parents who have children in school and they really want to get this thing done. You have students who have prepared for this national exam for a whole year, and you're telling them they need to extend it. There you can't sit pretty with both students and parents. So what I'm trying to actually advocate here is that the words that politicians verbalize actually can be detrimental to the votes that they are actually looking for.
The official campaigns begin today. Today is the first day of official campaigns for the repeat presidential election. The official campaign period will end at midnight on the 15th of October, exactly 48 hours before we go back to the polls to elect a president afresh. How should it be done? What are the issues that will matter? Because right now, yes, the judgment and how it was delivered, who delivered it, and how we reacted to it. That's where we are right now.
Before I answer to that, and as much as I want to agree with my good friend here, he's making very important and valid points. I want to say political naivety is also very dangerous. True. Because the moment you say something out of naiveness or without knowing what you are saying, then that is very dangerous. And it's the same thing my good friend here is saying, that so and so cannot add value, cannot bring anything in this region. What you need to understand that everything has a multiplying effect. Right? A Karanga may be unpopular in its area, but maybe there are people who are in Mombasa, who are in Malindi, who are in Mwingi or Kitui who loves a Karanga. And for him joining Jubilee, they would say, by virtue of Karanga joining, I will join. Just like an example, a football team, they take a player and then they get a lot of followers across the world, not because they can win, but because that player has joined them. So this is what I want to say. Somebody can join a political party or a political wing, and that political wing actually gains, even if this person cannot bring anything from where they sit or from where they come from, but across the board. We need also to understand that, because everything has a multiplying effect, like I said. Going back to the election, or to the campaign, you see, now people have learned their lessons, right? And every region has their political dynamics, right? And you cannot say the way we are going to campaign in Nyamira is the way we are going to campaign in Ukambani, or the way we are going to campaign in Ukambani, the same narratives we are going to take in cost. So I want to believe that every party, and this is particularly ODM and the Jubilee, because there is no other party which is involved in this race, they have learned their lessons. And they know now what to say, what to tell people, and what to ask. Going back to the verdict which was given by the High Court, my understanding...
By the Supreme Court.
Yes, Supreme Court, Edimuli. I think the law of this country must be respected by each and everyone. Otherwise, we will have a banana republic, and it is not fair. Even the judges themselves, there are things they have to consider, because what we are talking here, we are talking about malpractice and transmission. We did not, and they did not say that. Are you
trying to suggest that the judges went against the law?
I'm saying that I think I would say they overstepped their mandate. They did not put in mind the way. No, we have a Supreme Court. Because when we talk about Article 1 of the Constitution, then you ignore it in totality. Then you give your ruling. Then I think that it's wrong, because we are getting it wrong. Because they are not saying that these votes, they are not saying people did not exercise their right of voting. And the votes are there. The boxes are there. The least they could have done is to say,
you've gone into another argument, and I think we run the risk of losing focus in this.
No, we are not losing focus. Because if it is not for this, we would not be talking about this, and we could not go to the election.
But we already...
The least, because we are going again there, the least they need to understand what they could have said, open this box, because Kenyans voted.
Bonamutamu, no one applied for a recount. Neither the petitioner nor the respondent applied for a recount or made that application before the Supreme Court. Let's be fair to them. They were not going to come up with a judgment from anywhere else apart from the applications before them. No one did. Not even Jubilee. Not even.
I want to be fair. I want to be fair to the judges.
Let's not go back to that discussion. Let's continue with this discussion about the campaigns moving forward. Yes?
Yes.
And I think it's because a lot of your opinion has been thrown out the window. I give you another chance for a rebuttal before you move on.
This is the purpose of actually having a variety of people to discuss.
You're already overpowered in this.
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, you had a reason to bring these many guys to support. I'm just one guy from NASA, so I'm very comfortable and I'm very happy.
You can hold your own.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely, even against 6. Yeah. Now, listen. First of all, just to give my brother here, my good friend Sawanjoy, as we call him, some information. He needs to educate himself a little better. The debate on recession did not originate from NASA leadership. It originated, I happen to know, at a personal level where it originated, from disaffected Kenyans who are not in any leadership positions in NASA. Some NASA people who are seen to be NASA ideologues or leaders could have picked it up. And secondly, it's not necessarily a bad debate. It's not unethical, it's not unconstitutional, it's not illegal. It's just pushing the boundaries, saying, let's talk. If we don't share values, what reason do we have to share this space? So it's pushing people. No, don't limit ourselves to that. Let's think what is motivating anyone to say, let's recede, let's split the country. It's not necessarily just saying, for the sake of it, let's split this pie and share it.
Yes.
No, it's inviting public debate.
But Simaka, even as you continue giving your part of the debate, of course, we do understand that the swearing-in ceremony at the Kisumu County Assembly has begun. It's going on currently. Remember also Nairobi, the swearing-in ceremony of the Nairobi County Assembly and the subsequent election of Speaker will be happening today as well. It will be interesting to see who becomes Speaker of the County Assembly of Nairobi. Of course, you know the names proposed by Jubilee, but currently we understand the swearing-in ceremony of the Kisumu County Assembly is underway, and you can see there on the split City Hall and the Kisumu County Assembly already underway with these processes. Yes, Bonasimeha.
So, and secondly, I just actually wanted to agree with the Mheshimiwa Mutambu that decision of the Supreme Court matters. It becomes an issue in this election. And he also alluded to it, that Sawanjay also alluded to it, that it becomes an issue. However, it doesn't help when people, like those of us who are supposed to be public intellectuals who come here, and I presume so, and debate these things when we just speak it from the surface. Because one, the Supreme Court has not issued its full judgment, so we do not know the arguments.
Yes.
But the one thing we know is that the Chief Justice talked about the election being a process. So therefore, what I can anticipate in their judgment is they will talk about what was wrong with the process, what IEBC got wrong, and they talked about irregularities and illegalities in the process.
Correct.
Not just in one thing of results transmission. The best thing is to hold our horses. Let's be calm. Let's wait. They will issue this judgment. We will read it, then you can invite us here to discuss that judgment.
Bonamutambu will have that. I'll definitely invite you back to discuss that judgment once we have it, because even I do not know what exactly, and we need to be fair to the Supreme Court of the land as well.
And Fred, that's exactly what I wanted to say. We need to be fair to the judges. We do not know what is contained in that conclusive judgment that they had. But there's a problem that Kenyans are doing. And this problem is to take some leaders, and even the Supreme Court, let me put it that way, as if they are above the Constitution. The Constitution that we had before, the Mois and the likes, the President was above the law. This Constitution is so progressive that we do not, nobody enjoys that. And that's why if you go back to our chronicles, you find that our Constitution has allowed every person to be held accountable, including the same very judges that we are talking about. Unless you're forgetting, there was a time, the way we chastised the President, I was the first one actually, when the President was hiring 10,000 policemen. I was the first one to write, no, it's unconstitutional. The President can no longer do that. And guess what? It was halted, and it went through, the methodologies that were required. So I'm telling you, Fred, unless we forget that the Sharad Rao led commission had at one point in August, I think it's August last year, they had grilled our very good Chief Justice for, among other things, he was told about bribing. You remember the incident that we see with the Bible where he picks. Everybody has gone through this, not the Prime Minister, he's gone through that, the President has gone through that, and the Chief Justice has gone through that. I mean, he's been accused of bribery, he was accused,
but was he found culpable of any
He wasn't
bribery?
found, and that's why I'm saying nobody
I'm just trying to get why you're reviving that.
It's not. I am saying we should not hold anybody above the Constitution.
And of course,
that's why I'm liking.
There are processes of actually getting rid of Supreme Court judges if at all they are found to have broken the law.
And that's what I'm saying. The Constitution, we are all equal in the eyes of the Constitution. And that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
It reigns supreme, and we all agreed. That's why I'm saying it is very funny for a politician to say, I agree with this part of what the judges said. That's where I'm going. I agree with this part, but then I need to remove these commissioners. Yet the judges never said that. It was a directive that they must repeat.
Let's also be fair to the political players in this, because even NASA have not said that they are trying to remove the commissioners, because it is impossible to do it within the timeline we've been given.
But
It cannot happen. Let's understand the law as well. It cannot happen. So anyone saying that it's simply hot air. You cannot remove any of the commissioners.
Thank you.
Now
You
you
have to
have
be
my
very
point.
realistic. First of all, let me remind my brother here, Simeka, that when he says that the likes of David Ndii are not in NASA, it leaves a lot to be desired.
That's not what I said.
You said that this agenda is not
Did not originate from the NASA
that is
leadership.
the people who are propagating
He
it.
could have picked it from...
Gentlemen, we've really changed the line of discussion. It keeps changing because now we're talking about
according to the Constitution.
No, he wants us to discuss David.
Honorable Mutambo here was very correct.
David Ndii is not on this panel, so we will not discuss.
Thank you.
Honorable Mutambo here was very correct in saying that this judgment actually leaves a lot to be desired when you compare it to what the Constitution provides. First of all, I would have liked a situation whereby I saw these judges ordering for a forensic audit of these documents that are being presented, because you want to know, are they authentic or not? An independent forensic audit. An audit by the plaintiff or by the defendants is not a forensic audit. But now a judgment has been given without even carrying out a forensic audit to determine whether this document are genuine
we still
or
do
not.
not have the judgment.
Number
So we
two,
do not know what
number
happened.
two, no, a forensic audit was not carried out. Number two, when you look at Article
And you're certain
1,
it wasn't.
no, they didn't ask for it, at least in the public cameras. I was following up the case and I didn't hear anywhere where the judges said carry out a forensic audit.
As I said,
Now, Article 143 of the Constitution
that is
very
not the
clear.
intention of this panel. We are not here to actually judge the Supreme Court or to find out whether they did their job in the right way or not. Let's wait for the judgment. If
This is very important.
This is very against the Constitution. I'm sure there are remedies to
Article 143 of the Constitution.
the campaigns moving
yes,
to the
that's what we are doing. Article 143 of the Constitution is very clear that the President is immune from criminal and civil prosecution for actions that he committed or did not commit during his tenure in office. Now, all those things that were brought about by the plaintiff regarding the President, because it was the President who was taken to court, not the Jubilee Party. This was Uhuru Kenyatta.
But my understanding is that the President was absolved. I think it's time for us to take a break. Let's take a break. When we come back, I think we will have calmed down and sorted our discussion, and so that we can have at least some focus in this discussion. Let's take a break now. Citizen Extra continues.